Welcome back to the 3DMJ podcast. You might have noticed I'm not Andrea Valdez. In fact, this time our regular host, Andrea, is going to be the interviewee, and I'm going to switch roles with her. I'm going to be interviewing her about who she is and what she does and what makes her tick. And I think this is a pretty cool and important episode because unlike the original four coaches of 3DMJ, she has a little bit less history on the team. So she may not be as well known to you, but even though she doesn't have as much 3DMJ history, she still has a whole lot of history that has brought her to where she is today. And it's some very interesting stuff, and I think it would be great for all of you to hear about why we thought she was the perfect addition to the team and why we wouldn't have anyone else in her spot out of everyone we could have chosen in the world, and really what makes her such an amazing addition. She's got a pretty cool life story. She's been an athlete since she was a child as a gymnast. She's done figure, she's done powerlifting. She's been a coach for a very long time. She's gone through the process of getting an exercise physiology master's degree, and she's starting out an exciting new sport called grid. So keep listening if you want to hear more about it. I had an absolute blast with her, and I think you will too.
I'm going to try.
All right. So we've got a slightly different role reversal here on the 3DMJ podcast. I get to interview Andrea, our typical host, who doesn't allow herself to be called the host. But since I'm the host today, I'm going to call her the normal host, and she can't do anything about it because I have the power. Wow. So Andrea, welcome to your own podcast.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Happy to be here. Feels familiar.
Awesome. I can't imagine why. So yeah, I think this is pretty cool because you are the most recent addition to the 3DMJ team. But in many ways, it feels like you've been here for forever because we only brought you on because you're so much of the same mind and the same heart as the rest of the team, which I think is very cool.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question is, what has the experience been like to become a 3DMJ coach? This is something that's been a relatively recent development in your life.
Yeah, it's been, when was September? How many months ago? Oh my God, we're halfway through this year.
Yeah, it's already June.
Think about that. Okay, so like 9-10 months ago. It's been so many things already. You know, it was terrifying. And then I felt super inadequate. And then it was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And now that I get it, I can take on these clients, and now I'm crazy busy, and now I got to figure out how to handle this. And then it gets comfortable. So I don't know. It's been a lot of things. It just depends on literally like what month or week you'd ask me. But it's been a roller coaster, just like anything else that's new and exciting and different and a big deal. So I don't know if I could give one answer. Yeah.
No, that's a good answer. That's in my experience, that's basically the same thing we've all experienced over a 6-year period, just condensed down into a 9-month period. Yeah.
And I'd say the one thing that was the hardest that I can say legitimately that y'all, I guess, didn't have to go through. I'm not saying like this, like, oh, I'm so much better and had to go through so much more, but it's like you guys were already famous when I came on. Like when you start 3D and you're like, all right, we're going to have an athlete, versus we're 3D, we have 40,000 YouTube subscribers, we've been around for years, we're some of the top in the industry, and we're going to bring you on, and not a lot of people know you, and it's going to be all right. So that was, I mean, you guys all heard me go through it, but I know the audience didn't, but I was, so that's the first time I think in my adult life I've been so scared about what other people would think.
Yeah, that's a funny trap that exists in social media, where you put yourself out there to help people, and you try to do it from a very genuine place, which I think is something you've done really well.
Thank you.
But the almost kind of the dark side of it, or the fear, maybe shouldn't be a fear, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, is that the judgment from other people. Is that something, how do you manage that?
With your guys' help, with Brandon, my boyfriend, tons of internal work, but it wasn't easy. Whenever, I've told you guys this a lot, like when it's my own name and things that I want to say, and me being scared to mess up, never a problem. But now that I have the 3D name, that's the fear, is like, what if I'm not up to 3D standards? What if, I don't know, and I still talk about it a lot, and I still struggle with it sometimes. I mean, shoot, We had this conversation at our meeting 2 days ago, but it's just, I don't know how I deal with it. That's another one of those depends on the day and the situation. Day to day with my athletes, I feel fine. It's comfortable. It's where I belong. I know what to do with them. I feel great with that responsibility. It's like you said, the social, will they all accept me? And,
right. Well, that one-on-one with athletes is quite different than being one on 15K, like it is on your YouTube channel, right? So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
If I'm correct in my dates, you previously vlogged an entire prep. That was 2013?
Correct. Yep. And I started the channel in 2012, and within about a month or two, I decided I want to compete in 2013, and I want to find an awesome coach. Berto said he'd take me in, I think it was November 2012. And so once that happened is when I started starting this series. That carried me all the way through, I think my last show was August 2013, yeah. So that was the season of YouTube. So
how many times a week were you getting on in front of the camera and recording your prep experience?
Multiple times a day.
Multiple times a day?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I might have a video. I don't think I ever went more than maybe 3 days without a video posting on the channel. But it was a really weird reflex to pull my camera out anytime I did anything because I was so excited. And by anything, it's I'm getting my nails done. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm making breakfast. I have a thought bubble. It was just, I was so alone that it was all, I don't know. Yeah.
So what changed?
From then to now?
Well, so I guess to put it into perspective, how often are you recording things now?
Oh, man. Well, I record a lot of training sets, but actually me talking to the camera, oh, man, once every week or two. Unless
so you're
I'm
down
doing
to
something.
About a third of what you were at your peak.
Yeah, and I have to think about it. Yeah, I have to have it in the schedule. Hey, dude, you haven't vlogged in a week. Oh, okay, I guess I should talk to the camera about something that's been going on or a catch up. Yeah, but it's been very, very different, and I think it all came from self-preservation. We always talk about the pendulum in the last episode. Or I guess it'll go out next week with the powerlifting bodybuilding. Like you always said, it's swinging one way and the other and trying to find the middle. That's everything, including, YouTube for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So emotionally, what's the difference there? I mean, because I would say even before we kind of made this latest social media push, you were probably even more silent on social media. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the big difference between, we'll say, prior to the 3DMJ push and then after the 2013 prep? Where were you at mentally, emotionally to be in kind of that goodbye social media state?
Man, we're going to go there, huh?
We're going there.
I don't want to cry on my own podcast episode, Helms. Okay. I think, actually, I know that I was oddly, weirdly depressed in a way. So it was this weird, so 2013 was great. It was, like I said, the year of YouTube. It was I don't think people realize I've only done 2 figure seasons. One was a terribly alone, scary crash diet, almost died. And then this one with Berto as my coach, really successful, much healthier, vlogged the whole thing. So it was it wasn't just the typical high that you get from a contest prep. It was also I'm getting famous and everyone's excited for me and everyone back home thinks I'm great and everyone I just moved to California thinks I'm great. And so, even at least that's what I wanted to hear. Anyways, so it was everything great. And then not only was I a little bit emotionally spent, the typical, okay, I'm gaining weight. It feels a little weird, not quite as confident. I know I look better than the average human still, but it's not what it was. And so going through that on your own is already hard, but going through that publicly was also hard. As getting on YouTube, when I did start my channel, I was in the technical off season, but I was scared to eat, so I was really lean to start. And so knowing through my education through the year of 2013 and having Berto work with me and putting things into perspective, you can't look that lean forever and still progress and look different next time you get on stage. So let's find a way. And in my head, as an educated person, it makes sense. I'm going to gain a little weight, no big deal. But seeing it happen, and hearing people on YouTube with you're getting fat, even though I was like 125, I don't know. I was just spent. And so I kind of went the other direction. I was like, well, I'm not going to be on video because it makes me sad when I see the one negative comment mixed in with 100 positives. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start writing a lot. So that's actually what I did. That was because everyone started with me on YouTube. That was when I kind of slowly went away from it. But at the same time, for those people who actually really followed me, that's when I wrote a shit ton of articles that I'm really proud of. And like I knocked out 3 ebooks that year. I actually did my own coaching, like general pop stuff, for the first time online. So there was a lot of firsts. They just weren't as public, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's really good perspective because I know, I think there's a lot of value in people sharing their journeys because it normalizes things for people. It helps people feel not so alone. Maybe the experience you had in 2011 would have been better had there been some person for you to watch in the same way that probably someone had with you in 2013. But I think at the same time, when you're getting into these big, huge life changes, and this is something I've gone through, but in different platforms, obviously, because I kind of started a little earlier. When you're going through those changes and some of the really rough emotional patches, it makes it harder to process when you have to do it publicly.
Yeah. At
least it does for me. And I think anyone who is coming up right now and looking at you or someone else and going, hey, this is potentially a way for me to make a positive impact. They just need to be aware of kind of the cons, which I think is your perspective on that is very valuable as well.
Thanks. And it's like I said, it's pretty rare that I can feel beaten down. Because I've always been such a stubborn pain in the ass. And like, I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? And so when it gets to that point, I know it's like pretty bad. When I'm like, I'm just going to hide in the corner. It's... Yeah.
It's a little personal, emotional alarm bell.
Yeah.
Word. Okay, cool. So we're talking a lot about recent times. Let's get back in the old Wayback Machine.
Okay.
And, something I've said a lot in trying to help bodybuilders gain perspective on their sport and their self-identity is I am not Eric the bodybuilder, but I'm Eric and I bodybuild. Mm-hmm. However, and I'm not saying this isn't true of you, do you remember a time ever not being an athlete?
Nope. Can't recall it.
Yeah, tell me about that. Like, at what age did you start getting involved in athletics? How does that tie into your self-identity, and what does that mean?
Oh, man. It means everything, unfortunately. So, I was a little Nina in Corpus Christi, Texas. And from what I hear, I was also a pain in the ass back then. So, I was a hyper little shit. I think my brother did soccer because he's 2 years older than me. And he did soccer, and I think it was like a really positive thing for him. So I was like 4, and there's pictures of me going to soccer, and like the game's going on, and I'm sitting over here picking flowers. Like I wasn't having any part of it. Like whatever. Like my team was like, "Where is she?" And I'm just like, "Oh, this one's cute," Didn't want anything to do with it. I don't know why. I think because it was a team sport. That's what I can think. And then that's the first thing that like the family has record of. And then when I was 6 years old, I didn't know this at the time, but apparently. My parents had contacted a doctor and like, she's out of fucking hand. She's angry all the time and she's bouncing off the walls. We're thinking Ritalin, and that my mom was like, well, let me try this one thing because she's flipping anywhere. Put me in gymnastics. And then there goes like a decade and a half, actually like 20 years of my life. So I started gymnastics when I was 6. I was competing by the time I was, I think, 7.5 or 8, all the way through middle school. As far as gymnastics goes, there's levels, competitive, there's levels 1 through 10, and then elite. And the top, there's maybe a couple hundred elite gymnasts in the nation at any time. The top 6 go to the Olympics, that kind of stuff. So when I was 13, I was level 9. So I thought, which is pretty standard. The peak for a female is usually like 15 to 19 years old, right? So
Okay.
I was thinking I wanted a college scholarship. And so I
Were
started.
you ever thinking Olympics at any
No,
point?
no.
No.
I
Okay.
think when I was like real little, but I think by the time I was maybe 10 or 11, I realized that I could be maybe in the top like 1,000 to get to college, but not like the top like 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of people think gymnastics is gymnastics, but there's very, I mean, yeah, I wasn't a Jeff Alberts in gymnastics, is what I'm trying to say.
Got
So yeah, so I was good, but I wasn't like. I think once I saw some of the level 10s at my gym, that I was like, that's not me yet. So college was then the plan, and then I started getting a lot of injuries. Like in middle school, I developed Osgood-Slaughters was kind of a bitch for me. So knee problems when I was maybe 10, 11. When I was 11, 12, my ankles started getting real bad. And at the same time, cheerleading tryouts were coming. And I was in middle school. And this was before Instagram. So I would tell my friends, I'm like, I can do all these flips. But they'd be like, okay, whatever. But so-and-so's cheering and so-and-so's kicking ass at basketball. Like all the things that... And I wanted my friends to see how cool I was, so I tried out for cheer, and I was the best one, because, well, I shouldn't say that, but I could already tumble and all that, so it came naturally. And I, for like 7th and 8th grade, tried to do 20 hours a week in gymnastics, along with cheer, along with track, along with basketball. I was great at all of them.
Wow.
Yeah, I was good at all of them, but the gymnastics started suffering. So
you were like queen of the jocks in middle school.
Yeah, I was a good little athlete.
Okay.
Mind you, I couldn't shoot, but I was on A team just because I could run and steal the ball and give it to people that could, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't actually, I was always athletic, ball sports, team sports. I was like, meh. So, yeah, that was the year that my dad, I think I'd gone to the hospital a few times. I'd seen doctors and orthopedic surgeons, and it was like this ultimatum. And my dad finally, he actually pulled me out. I was dancing with it anyways. I was kind of getting depressed because I wasn't placing as well as I used to.
This is gymnastics?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was doing meets, but it hurt. I was missing some gymnastics to do cheer, and the coaches didn't like that. And it was honestly, as a coach, because later on in life, I'm sure we'll get there, I coached gymnastics for a lot of years. And as a coach, I would never let one of my level 9 gymnasts do those other things. Like, you can't do it all. But I went there, and then my dad was like, look, you're getting hurt. Last time we've gone to the hospital again because you crunched your ankles and you can't walk. That's it. I'm calling it. And I remember I hated him for it. But my friends at school could still see me flip. So that immediately went to cheer, competitive cheer. So I did that shit through high school, through college. Cheered in undergrad. And then, even in grad school, I did a season of, actually a couple seasons, an adult squad. So last time I competed in cheer, I was 26 years old.
Okay, so you basically competed in
Something.
Gymnastics until you were a young teen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you switched to competing in cheer from middle school all the way through grad school.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, my first thought is, oh, why'd you stop? But then I forget that most sports end with school. Is that the main reason why you stopped competing? Is there just no outlet for
in cheer or gymnastics?
Cheer.
In cheerleading, yeah, there's
Correct
no...
me if I'm wrong, you stopped in gymnastics because your dad pulled you out, you were hurt.
And I like to say forced into early retirement. But it was a great decision. You know, cheer was... It was so weird, like, as good as you can be at gymnastics, that last 5% is like... I didn't have... One, I didn't know anything about nutrition. I come from a family that didn't really give a shit. So I'm sure I was doing a lot of it to myself. I wasn't sleeping a lot, like I talked about. I'm sure, overtraining. So a lot of it, looking back, you know, I couldn't have done anything then because I didn't know. My parents didn't know any better. But, body, as far as we knew, my body couldn't deal with that. But cheer, I could do, like maybe a fourth of the training and still be at the top of that game, you know. So then the problem with cheer, I did it when I was in Oklahoma because there's a great gym right by OU, or within like 30 minutes, which is where I went to grad school. actually, when we were living in California just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, after my first powerlifting meet, I was like, I need to do something that's a little more intense. And if there was a cheer gym, I was going to go.
So
There wasn't one
cheer
around.
gyms.
Yes, there are cheerleading gyms that
I don't
there's
think our listeners know this unless
really?
they've actually. I
Yeah,
don't know this.
there are facilities where hundreds of little kids come and compete in cheerleading. Yeah. But adult squads are hard to come by. There's maybe 10, 20 in the United States that are like actually competing. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So you were actually going right, in which we'll get to this. Powerlifting wasn't quite the right fit.
Yeah.
But cheerleading was. I want to see if I can get back into that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Oh my God, I love cheer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was just like I was in California. Brandon was competing. We were living in Sacramento. And you can ask him, like, I was like Googling, I was like, why is there not a gym here? Okay, well, what if we move to LA? What if we move, there's one, like, I was just trying, like, searching for something. Yeah. So it wasn't really by choice. It was just circumstance.
This doesn't exist, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess someone who's coming from a performance sport background this whole time, why figure? Or why physique competition?
It was the hardest thing I could think of doing.
Okay. So what led you to that belief? Because I don't think that's a universally held belief. I think some people know that because they know what you have to do nutritionally.
Right.
Other people will just look at it as, yeah, you lift weights and it's a pageant.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. How do I fill in this hole? Okay, so I started lifting weights in grad school with dudes. So that started it. So although I did all this flipping and cheering or whatever, I guess I should say where I went to school because that would help give some context too. So I got my undergrad at A&M Corpus Christi. I stayed in Corpus because I was coaching a gymnastics team at the time and I didn't want to leave them. Also was dating a dude I shouldn't have been dating, but I tried to convince myself it was the gymnastics, but I stayed.
Bad girl.
I know. I stayed in Corpus, and actually I ended up, by the end of undergrad, I was head coach and managing the gymnastics team that I grew up on as a little kid. Like, that was my family, my life. So I started there when I was 6 years old. I didn't leave there till I went to grad school. Like, that was my fam. Yeah, that was my fam. So, yeah, I studied sports management, minor in business administration, thinking that I wanted to own my own gym. And then I managed my own, and I was like, nope, don't want to do that. So after that, I actually did an internship in Houston because I thought, well, if I don't want to manage a facility, I want to be the person with the clipboard running a pro sports team of some kind, is what I thought. So then I got an internship doing marketing with the Houston Dynamo, which is the MLS team, the pro soccer team in Houston.
Okay.
Which was an awesome 6 months. It was super cool, but I also realized, nope, don't want to do that forever. So I was like, well, maybe I could be a professor. I've always coached. I've always talked. I've always wanted to work with athletes. So I thought I would be an exercise physiology professor. So I looked around for the best schools, I thought, around. I didn't want to be extremely far from my fam, so I looked in Texas, Oklahoma. And what's funny is not only did OU have the most published university at the time, so this is like 2010, so their ex-phys program was very highly renowned, I guess, out of anyone I talked to. Out of the professors at my undergrad, they were like, hey, that's a really great program. And also, the family that I grew up in gymnastics, it was Mary Jane's Gymnastics Training Center. Mary Jane herself was Miss OU. Like, she was an NCAA winning gymnast. She was a gymnast and a cheerleader at OU because at the time you could do both. She was like the national beam champion. So when I was actually growing up, every once in a while we would do meets at OU so she was like, I would say she was like my white mother. Like, she helped raise me. And so it was like this weird combination of Mary Jane used to take us there, so it has a weird, like, what if I could live up to that? Also, it was a really good school. And also, my flyer, one of my best friends in undergrad, so the girl that I picked up in undergrad, she was actually applying to law school at OU. So that was how that worked out. We were like, okay, if we're going to try to get in here together. We did, but the backup plan was if we don't, we're going to try out for Cirque du Soleil and move to Vegas.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, because we were good at flipping and picking each other up, and we thought it was a good idea.
That would be pretty dope.
It would
That's pretty
be,
amazing stuff.
but we got in, so we moved to OU, and then OU doesn't take at the time, which I don't know now, but at the time you couldn't just take classes for their masters; you had to be a grad assistant. Mm-hmm. And so master students taught a lot of activity classes. And one of the classes that I taught was individual fitness, which is literally, hey guys, we have to meet in the gym from this hour to this hour. You have to check in with me and I like observe and then you sign out and that's it, you know? So basically, except I didn't even lead it. It was like literally come in, do something productive. If you have questions, I got you kind of thing. And so it was me.
So high school PE.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's how I got to OU. While at OU was when this whole figure thing happened. So I'd always loved flipping, obviously. And then I always liked playing. Like I always did intramurals, stuff like that. But weight training didn't start till I was forced to just spend a lot of time in the gym watching people. And then in grad school, which I'm sure you know, they're basically your family too. Like I'd spend 80 hours a week in this same facility with all the other grad students, and 2 or 3 of the guys that were also teaching individual fitness and weight training or whatever, we all taught at the same time, and then we'd just stay afterwards and train together. And so it was like such a bro fest, and I loved it. Like it was Mondays we did chest, dude, and Tuesdays was shoulders, and Wednesday was legs, and although I was an athlete my whole life, I could kind of start to see a little different definition in myself, especially my upper body. So this was going on for a few months. And then another grad student there, a PhD student, Chris Foss, who you know is now...
Chris Foss, shout out to CF.
to CF. Yeah, and Jeremy Linecky. Go ahead.
Shout out to JL.
Yeah. So they were PhDs while I was a master's student, or PhD candidates. My bad, I know that matters now. And Chris was prepping for 2011, right? So I saw him, he was working with Lane Norton. I saw him go from a big, giant, strong dude to like, his face looks a little different. Okay, cool, you know? Like he was just getting... Yeah, I was like, he looks a little different. And then I heard him, like, I would randomly hear, like, oh, he's getting for show. I'm like, cool, whatever. And then, like, he came in to take pictures for one of our studies where we were doing EMGs on the VL. So we we're putting electrodes on this pro natural bodybuilder's quad. And he lifts up his shorts, and we put him in the isokinetic dynamometer. And he kicks out, and I was like, what is this? And there's, like, feathers in his leg, you know? And I was like, oh, my God, I've never seen a leg look like this, you know? So I just started interrogating him, like, what are you doing? You know, and he tells me, he tells me.
So you interrogated Chris Foss to figure out how hard bodybuilding was.
Yeah, pretty much. So he tells me about it all. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, I work with this guy, Lane Norton. So I Google Lane Norton. I find, at the time, he was working with Ava Cowan, who was winning Olympia figures over and over. Yep. And I saw her, and I was like, God, I could never look like that. And I was like kind of lightweight depressed, but then I'd read articles on her and how she was eating. And it was like this whole like 6-month internet obsession between Lane, Ava. And what's funny is I didn't even know it, but I like look at Lane Norton on bodybuilding.com, and it was the videos of Team Norton, and Chris was in the videos. Do you remember this?
Inside the Life.
I did. Yeah.
Dude, every bodybuilder who came up in the mid-2000s to late 2000s watched Inside the Life. Every natural bodybuilder, that's like their favorite thing ever.
Yeah. And so it was like this 6-month, like, I know I'm supposed to be like getting a master's, but like, shit, I can't stop reading this and watching this and reading it and watching it, and made my own spreadsheet on how to count macros. And that was it. And then I think I started counting on my own. And I lost like 10 pounds. And I was like...
it works.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. And so then that was when I actually emailed Chris. And I was like, hey, can I come up to your office for like, ask you about this shit? He's like, sure. And so that day, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. He's like, yeah, of course you can. He's like, next season. I was like, well, what about this season? He's like, well, there's one in like 10 weeks, but you should probably just wait till next one. I was like, nope, I'm going to do that one. And so then I started. And that's what happened.
10 weeks is 2 more weeks than you need.
Right? Right? Especially when we only have 30 pounds to lose. That's it.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I have to. And that's how that worked out.
So that was the introduction into figure. And then you kind of set yourself up for it to be the hardest thing you could do with that kind of prep.
Yeah, and I loved it. I had so much to say to everybody. Let me tell you. So much
now here's an interesting question that I did not plan on asking you, but popped into my head. So the fitness division, which is almost, if not more dead than female bodybuilding, unfortunately.
It is.
Where you basically have to get as lean as, I would say, somewhere between a bikini competitor and where a figure competitor is. Doesn't require, probably requires a little bit more muscularity than a bikini competitor, but not as much as figure. And there is a fitness routine where you have to actually do, like, you know, all this fitness related stuff. Have you ever considered competing in that?
I have, but it's nowhere.
Yeah, I've only seen it.
Especially in natty shows. I've only seen it in NPC.
Yeah, I've only seen it in the NPC. Now, granted, I don't think one would need to be on the gear to compete in fitness at a high level,
right?
Given the muscularity requirements, and it's not like you have to squat 500 pounds for reps. It's like you have to do, like a planche or something.
Yeah.
But so is that something you've ever thought about doing, even though it's not in natty divisions?
Yeah, I thought about it. I didn't that year because I was like, I need to figure out how to look like that. Because the fitness girls still look way leaner than the average human. I was like, well, I need to figure out how to look like that first. Because I can already flip. Like, it's that whole just like, it's just relative. Like, because of my gymnastics background, cheer, I could easily be one of the best tumblers with no warm-up kind of thing, you know? Not one of the best, but I mean, it was easy enough. And like with fitness, the same thing. It's like there's a lot of girls who do it with a gymnastics background, but you don't need it. You know, it's handstands, balancing. There's a few flips here and there, but it's stuff I learned when I was like 8. So if anything, that would be the easy part, not the dieting and figuring out how to look like that part. Yeah,
I mean, I was just thinking like, man, you know, if you showed up in similar condition for what you do for a figure show, you'd do very well in that round, and then we already know you'd kill it in the other one. So
yeah, hopefully, yeah, I did think about it. Not ever like seriously considering, but I was like, man, that would be cool. But I remember 2011 specifically, I was like, well, I don't even know how to look like that, much less put a routine together and memorize it, and you know, and I didn't even know like where to find. I don't even know if it was in that show, but I wouldn't know where to find someone to choreograph or that knew the terminology. It was just like too much. That was all.
Have you done any of your own choreographing ever?
Yeah.
You coach gymnastics? You might not even need somebody for that.
Well, I don't know. At the time, I would have wanted someone because I don't know like the terminology, and I've never even seen them besides on the internet, so I didn't. But yeah, I've done lots of cheer routines, lots of gymnastics floor routines and beam routines. Actually, when I was living in Stack, the last routine I choreographed was probably a year and a half ago for a girl I used to coach. I love it. I think it's super fun.
We'll swing back around to that once we talk about what your current competitive endeavors are. But I don't want to leave all the academic stuff in the dust. So let's talk about. People might not know this, but we both actually had bachelor's degrees in sports management. My bachelor's degree, for those who watch my origin story, I think I talked about it, was very much focused on maybe 50-50, like fitness and exercise science and nutrition, and then kind of the fitness industry, sports industry side of it. What was your undergrad curricular experience like in terms of what courses you took and how it may or may not have prepared you for grad school?
Nothing could have prepared me for grad school. It was totally different than I thought. But the undergrad curriculum sounds pretty similar to yours. Like it was basic XViz classes, a few activity classes, some programming stuff, some basic biomechanics, and then the sports management emphasis was just like legal issues in sports, sport law.
So was sports management the degree title, or was that a specialization under a different degree?
It was kinesiology, and you could specialize in sports management, in athletic training, and then I think just straight exercise science.
That's interesting. So we basically had the same degree, but we just flipped the specialization versus title. Because mine is actually a bachelor's in sports management with a focus in fitness and wellness. While
Oh,
yours
weird.
and yours was a bachelor's in kinesiology
Mm-hmm.
with a specialization in sports management. Ah,
Yeah.
it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think there are some raw sports management degrees out there that have almost no ex-phys in them. And I always wondered if you had to take prereqs to get into your master's, but now it makes sense that you didn't.
Yeah, no. That sounds really smart, that what you just said, because really to manage a facility is very different than to program a human, which is
Right.
very which is very
Yeah.
different than grad school, which is very different than bodybuilding.
Yeah, the only reason I could think of someone who would just want to be running a gym or running a facility or something like that who would need those exercise phys related skill sets is typically they don't hire someone straight out the gates to do that.
Yeah.
They have to become the personal trainer manager first or something of that equivalent.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Okay. So what did you feel that, well, I guess here's the thing. You probably weren't thinking about coaching athletes and doing what you're doing today when you were doing your bachelor's. Is that correct?
Absolutely not. No idea.
Mm.
I wanted to at the time I was coaching, I was one of the 2 head coaches for the gymnastics team in Corpus. So my whole deal was, okay, Mary Jane taught me when I was growing up, her and the other coaches, and then she stopped coaching and gave it to me and this other girl, Rachel, who actually lives in Austin. She was my teammate growing up, and we coached together this team for years. And eventually I was like, well, I'm going to inherit this, and it's just going to, and so I was preparing for that. Until Rachel left and Mary Jane grew up and I was the head, and I was like, I can't do this. Not can't, but I felt that was not a lifestyle I wanted for the long haul. And I know that I learned very quickly what a brick and mortar business entails, and I don't think I would ever want that.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever do any just one-on-one personal training in any
Yep.
of your... Okay.
Yeah, when did I do that? Man. Well, obviously when the kids needed it, we would do private lessons. And then in undergrad, I think we had to do it for a certification for one of my classes. I think we did ACE certifications or something, so we had to do a few hours there.
Mm-hmm.
In grad school, I actually did a little bit of it on the sidesies. A couple of my students actually ended up personal training them just because.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how similar did you find the experience of coaching gymnasts versus doing one-on-one training for general fitness or whatever the person's goal was?
Oh man, so different. So different because I did a few times for like I wouldn't say an athlete, like a class kid whose mom was a good friend of like for favorite. But really, when you're a competitive gymnastics coach, like these are your children. So if it was like, if I ever did it, it was the parent accepts that I'm like their aunt or something, or their big sister or whatever, or their whatever. But the bond is already there. The work ethic is already there. The expectations are already there. And then when I was personal training, I have those kids 20 hours a week. I have you for 2. And at the same time, this has to be fun and enjoyable because I have to have you come back all the time. And you have to see progress, otherwise you're going to stop. So there's like all these other considerations that just make it, I mean, coaching an athlete in general pop, I think in any way, whether you said gymnast, my bodybuilders now, a volleyball player, or whatever, a competitive athlete, I just handle so much differently than I do someone who like wants to get in shape. Just the motivations are so different.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So yeah, I mean, going back to your academic career here.
Okay.
So it sounds like the bachelor's was more or less what you expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was in line with where at the time you thought you wanted to go.
Right.
Hell, it probably did even prepare you for where you ended up, but then you figured out, no, I don't want to run a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
what were your expectations going into grad school? What were your goals at that point? Like, I was to become a professor, correct?
Right. It was to
Okay.
become a professor. And because, as I've talked about, I'm stubborn and pig-headed and all that stuff, once I had a foot in the door at OU and I went to see my eventual mentor and I visited and saw the campus and talked to him. If I remember correctly, everything he's telling me expectation-wise, he's like, you're here like 80 hours a week. You're going to be in the lab most of the time. Yeah, your classes matter, but just pass them because what you're going to learn is in the lab. You're going to be teaching. Like, everything he told me, I mean, I think I heard it, but I was like, whatever you say, I'm going to be like, yep, that's fine with me because I'm going to get in this. And I had no idea what he was talking about. No idea. Like, as far as when you're in the lab, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be in this room collecting data. Cool. I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll do it. You know, like, I didn't know what any of it meant, but I felt challenged, and therefore I was like, I got this. I'll accept that challenge. Don't know what it is, but if that's what it takes to get here, then I will do it. Yeah, so I thought an undergrad, you take your classes, you do great at them, and that's it. Here it was like, it was actually very upfront. Like, you just need to pass them because what matters at our institution is producing papers. And some colleges, or from what I understand, some universities, it is just get your classes done. Some universities are very teaching focused. Ours was just very research based. And so I was groomed from day one to make that be my focus. And I didn't really know what that meant until I was in the trenches.
Yeah, research, exercise physiology and nutrition, it's a very interesting thing because most of the professional outcomes where someone becomes a trainer or an RD, which are mainly the things that you would go to school for with exercise science, if you stop at the bachelor's level, only require a bachelor's, you know? So I would say correct me if you have a different experience here, while the graduate level courses are harder and get more in depth and they kind of peel back a few more layers, they're not that much different from the undergrad courses.
Right.
And I would say by far the most I've learned was out of courses that taught me how to read research, how to interpret research, and then the actual act of doing research itself. But I can totally understand how we don't really, I'm saying this like I'm part of the academic body, I don't think academics in general prepares undergrad students for knowing what graduate school is. You know, it's not, like in high school, all you're doing once you're a junior is, you got to think about the SATs, you got to think of what college you're going to go to, what college you're going to go to, which, you know, has downsides because not everyone is going to end up in college, or should, and probably underprepares those students. But in undergrad, it's either you're done, or if you're interested in graduate school, it's very difficult to get information about what that even is.
Right.
So I think the assumption is that it's just harder courses.
Right.
And, you know, I go to a good school, when in reality, it's more like you need to find the right professor, the right advisor, a research topic, and you need to go into it, you know, in hindsight. You want to go into it knowing exactly what you want to do and what to expect. But did you find that after you'd been into it, you're like, oh, wow, this wasn't what I thought it would be?
Yeah, I was totally blindsided. And that's not, again, not to say anything negative about that. Like, they told me what it was, but I was and again, me being I feel like as strong-willed as I am, when they're telling me stuff, I'm like, that seems to make sense, okay. Like, I didn't really question it because I'm like, well, if there's other kids are in it, I could be in it too. Like, if they could do it, I could do it too. And I could do it, but I was not happy doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's without context. You know,
Yeah.
that big spiel you got probably made sense as words coming after one another. You know?
Yeah.
But without the context or the experience of knowing what research is, or data collection is, or being in the lab, or understanding what a professor actually does, because all the student sees a professor is they teach my classes, or their graduate assistant teaches their classes, and then, you know, I get grades back, and occasionally I go to their office hours, and reality, they don't know that professors have a certain number of research outputs they have to have.
Right.
That's how they go up for tenure. That's how they decide if they're doing their job appropriately. And depending on what school they're in, there may be a huge proponent or component that is that or less. So,
Right.
yeah, it's such a different game.
Yeah, and I think to put it into perspective for the listeners, a typical day for me in grad school, when I wasn't even competing yet, was like I would get there at around 5 or 5:30 in the morning because I was a master's student and I got the shift no one wanted, right? And I think the whole first year of my master's, we were working on a protein supplement, testing it for GNC. And it was, shoot, I don't even know. Am I allowed to say this? I think I am. It should be published somewhere. They won't know. Okay,
Probably.
Whatever. I was testing a nutritional supplement. Our lab was. Although we were a biophysics lab, and my emphasis was in neuromuscular physiology, like you had mentioned, the responsibilities, in order for us to go to conferences, in order for us to have the equipment that we need, we have to bring funds in. And a way to do that is to have companies pay the university to run these studies for them. And so I would get up, I would go collect data, and for that, it meant personal train people. Have 3 or 4 people come in. I would run them through the exercises they were supposed to do. I would watch them do their 30-minute walk. I would watch them physically drink their drink. So it's like 6:37 or something like that. Teach classes through the mid-morning, try to get a workout in. I'd go to my classes in the afternoon, evening, and then go home, try to do homework, or stay at the lab, actually, do homework, maybe grade papers, whatever. Stay there till 9:30, 10 at night, and do it again. So that was, again, not bad, and that was all conveyed to me, but I don't know, it just wasn't. At first I was like, yeah, we're going to do all this stuff. And by like 6 months, I was like, dude, I'm exhausted. I haven't slept. I don't have any friends. I went to a few football games. That was fun. But, yeah, it was a lot. But again, not everybody's like that. That was just what my lab at my university demanded. And I was challenged with it. So I was like, I'm going to shut up and do it, But by 2 years in, I was like, I'm not doing the PhD. I can't do it.
And I think, and we've talked about this before, we had similar academic paths if you look at it on paper, but very different academic experiences. And I think the difference is that I went into my academics from the start with the intention of I'm going to be a bodybuilding coach, while you found yourself as a bodybuilding coach after having done academics, which means that, the direction you took, it was, okay, I want to be a facility management person. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, I want to be a professor. Oh, wow, I don't want to do that either. So I guess the question is, academics didn't end up being what you'd hoped, and it wasn't as enjoyable. And I'm paraphrasing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's where I could see myself being happy didn't work. So I've enjoyed everything I've ever done to some extent. Like when I say oh, I was miserable, but day to day, I'm like, I love these people that I'm watching train, and I really like my classmates, and this is so cool. I'm learning how to do this. It's not that. It's the lifestyle that it would create for me to continue this path. So me thinking I wanted to own a gymnastics training center, I loved coaching gymnastics. I loved my staff. I loved my kids. I loved their parents. But at the same time, I didn't like that in that business where you're training adolescent athletes. So you now you don't have evenings in your life forever, right? Because they train, I trained 4:30 to 8:30 every day for years and years and years and years.
Once they get off school and done with their extracurricular stuff, yeah.
Exactly. So, so I'm thinking which is not the case, but I'm in 10 years, if I have kids and they have basketball games, football, I'll never get to see them. Not only that, I have to worry about the overhead, the air conditioning, and I was like, that sounds like a life I don't want to eventually live, And
Right.
so then with the marketing internship with the soccer team, oh my God, that was the coolest thing ever. I met famous people, went to schmoozy parties, planned awesome events, all that, so got all this free stuff, But if it's game day, that's 24 hours that you're busy. If there's an event, you're a slave to that event. It's very Corporate environment felt kind of weird to me. Favorites and like playing, and I'm kind of good at it, but I didn't like that I had to do. I just didn't like it. It was like lightweight house of cards, and I didn't like it. So I didn't like that. I didn't kill anybody, but you know what I'm saying. And then with the PhD thing, wanting to be a professor, I knew I would love teaching because I've always loved it. And when I say the academic didn't work out, I feel like I'm still a teacher, right now. But
if being a professor was only being a teacher, though,
that's what I did.
I'm going to let you say it, but when I think of would Andrew be happy as a professor, I know the answer is no.
The whole like going somewhere, like waking up, packing all my meals for the day, which I did because I was a bro, but having a different schedule every day, but it was full from 5 to 9, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then having students come in and like I don't know, I just always knew I didn't want a life where I was like stressed 24/7 and where I would feel guilty training. To be honest. I would feel guilty being like, okay, I know I have these obligations to you and you and you and you, but I got to go get a workout and y'all can see me in there working out because it's down the hall at the university. Now I feel even worse. And then I have to come in here and stay late so that y'all know that I still care. Just the external impression. Like I just need more alone time in my life. And I didn't realize, I think, all of the external pressures. It's not just the students in the classroom, as you know.
No. And hell, for me, just grading papers alone is enough for me not to want to be a professor. So.
Yeah.
But no, that's very interesting. So I guess, and I'll frame this from my perspective.
Okay.
I made a recent, not too recent, but everything on Instagram that I've done is recent since I've only had it for a couple months. But I made an Instagram post a while ago, and I was kind of ranking what I thought were top qualities for coaches. And like last, out of things that are still important, I put having a evidence-based awareness and perspective. And I think even though a lot of what I do in academics is not directly applicable to coaching athletes on a day-to-day basis, the mindset that you get taught in grad school of going, right, I got to control variables, I have to use a scientific method, I need to be systematic, I understand that correlation isn't causation just because this happened at the same time, I need to dig a little deeper. Have you found that even though your academic path didn't lead you to becoming a professor, Professor Valdez, but it's led you sideways, kind of lightweight, sort of led you to being a coach, can you look back and do you think you benefited from doing research and being in grad school?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I like I said, I've loved everything.
That was like the most leading question ever.
No.
Say yes.
I know. Actually, it was horseshit. No. As much as I'm like, I could never do that, but I loved it all. It's the same as like, yeah, I could never do it, but I also learned tremendous amounts of everything from all of it, no matter what it was. And the biggest things that I think I got from grad school, not just all the things you said about how it makes you think and whatever, but, well, I guess it is how it makes you think, like just question everything and everybody. Because I remember we would, one of the things we would do every week or 2 weeks or whatever, my mentor was one of the head reviewer. Like we would get reviews every week. And we would all sit down, like me and the 4, because I was the only master's student in my lab. There was 4 PhD candidates. I lied, 3 others and me. There's actually 1 other, but it only lasted a semester. But I stayed. And we would sit down, like he would send us all this, he'd send us all a paper, and we'd sit down and go over all the things that we thought were wrong with it together. Not wrong, but that needed to be edited.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like he was great at what he did. I wasn't the person for that. But I learned so much because I'd sit there, I'd be like, looks cool. And they would just like be like, no, because they would have 10 things. I have like 1. And it was just, I just never taking anything for face value, I guess. Especially in this industry, not just this industry, but just with humans. Like now when I go to the doctor and they tell me stuff, I'm like, you think so? Really? Okay, well, let me look into that. It's just, it's carried into everything.
So it's given you an air of healthy skepticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, honestly, from the outside, it's very apparent because you put out a tremendous amount of content. And, there's many people with just like certified personal trainer after their names or just a bachelor's degree, let alone a master's in exercise phys, who I think they learned the wrong thing from school. They learned, oh, now I know it all, now I'm an authority.
Mm-hmm.
And without fully understanding the information they're putting out, kind of that Dunning-Kruger effect, they're hammering out stuff out, and maybe they're only right about 60% of the time.
Yeah.
But most importantly, they don't know that they're wrong 40% of the time.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully what happens when you, like I think you experienced, is you recognize how much potential for error there is, how much potential for misapplication or potential for this only being right in a certain context, or even things we just don't know yet or may never know. And I think that comes across, even though you're not like a science geek in terms of your content.
Mm-hmm.
You still put out very basic, solid, sound information that pretty much can't be wrong. Everything that you put out there. And I think some people may go like, oh, well, she's not putting herself out there, not challenging herself. And I'd say, no, I think to me, it clearly shows how much I know what I know, and things that are far outside of that, it would be a disservice to my readers to try to, put something out where it could serve them incorrectly. And I think that's a good lesson for a lot of exercise pros, because this stuff fitness is not that complicated,
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I do are, not that I'm on some crazy level. I do a lot of the muscle geeky stuff, but a lot of the times I'm taking complex things and going, and guess what? It's still pretty freaking simple in the end,
Yeah.
So it comes across.
Thanks. I try to, but more than anything, another valuable thing that sounds negative but was a positive is that was also the only time in my adult life where I felt small. Like, in the gym, in the gymnastics training center, I'm like, these are my kids. I got 20 kids. I got them. We're doing these things. We're placing at meets. Like, we're doing that. You take me to, in classrooms. I got it. In so many areas of life, I always said, like, I got it. I got it. I got it. And it was like in a room or in a building, right? Because there was like probably 40 grad students. I'd say like half PhDs, half masters that just had more experience than me. And I just felt like lesser than, and I think that was needed at the time.
I can totally relate to that. I think when I came from my online bachelor's and online master's to moving to another country to starting my MPhil, and then my PhD, I had the hugest case of imposter syndrome. And I think the only thing that provided me solace is once I started to get to know other students, I realized they all had it. We all had it. And it was only the PhDs who were just about to graduate who were like ready to be done mentally and actually, who were starting to feel competent. So.
And I should also say too, it was me and one fourth year and 2 fifth years. So it was first year and then two guys are about to graduate and a girl who was like 3 semesters from graduating. So I was like stupid compared to everyone I was talking to all the time. And I was like, but again, I think it served me well.
That's good.
Is all.
Yeah, I think sometimes people will ask me, coming from already a negative assumption, like, how is this degree going to get me a job, or how is this going to? And a lot of the times, I kind of tell people, especially in the fitness industry, it's like you're going to have to create your own job, unless you want to be a personal trainer or you want to get a very specific credential like a certified athletic trainer or a RD. Your job is going to be something you're going to have to self-create.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if there was an A plus B equals C kind of pathway, but often there is not. So the only thing you can hope to get out of a degree is a better. It's kind of like, instead of just adding knowledge is great, but honestly, I forget shit all the time. I just look at the study. But if it can change how you think and the way you think, then all of a sudden you have a skill set that other people just don't have, and I'd say that's probably the biggest benefit.
Yeah. And what's funny is from that, right? So, which I think it's weird how it got to figure, because I'm saying I was working all those crazy hours, blah, blah, blah. That was all year one. What happened was, between my 2 years, my professor, my mentor, actually moved universities. The two guys that were about to graduate did. And the one girl that was left over, actually, that guy was her fiance, one of the ones that just graduated. So she was just there to finish that and move on, right? And so it was like me, no mentor. Well, I did. Someone adopted me to get my thesis done or whatever, but I was kind of on my own. I already decided I wasn't going to do the PhD. So I was just like, okay, finish teaching. I taught like a double load that year. And, and so that was kind of what opened the possibility to me competing. So it's weird how angry I was that all of it fell apart. Like I was hit. Like I say it now, saying it was a great lesson. I was real like bitter those 2 years, and with it all falling apart, though, kind of gave me the space to actually use all these 6 months of like weird researching on my own to actually compete. And I needed to train more than the school gym was open. So I got a membership at a local gym. And while I was there, this is going to be like the embarrassing part of my story. Not really embarrassing, but just the thing that everyone's going to be like, what?
Awesome.
While I was training, I know, while I was training there, it was like the best, I guess, gym for people who are not normal. And some guy approached me about Herbalife products. Some dude I saw every day, I was like, whatever, dude, I'm counting my macros, I'm taking all this stuff, like, it's cool, don't worry. He's like, just come have a tea. And I'm like, it doesn't fit in my macros, that's like 2 carbs, whatever. Anyways, so we ended up, but I see these people all the time, as you do in any gym, and so finally they convinced me to go, and they talked to me about all this stuff, and I was personal training on the side now, right? And people always ask me what I was taking, because I just competed in figure, and I looked all fit, and I'm over here thinking, like, okay, I don't want to be a professor now, but I'm still in grad school, okay, I can make a little money extra on the side, people ask me what I take anyways, and if I take these things, then that's money in my pocket. Plus, I'm still helping people, and then my clients could take it. It was like this whole, like, perfect, like, sure, why not? And honestly...
So this is the confession.
This
of
is... Well,
Andrea
it's on...
Valdez.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. This is how my channel started. It's on YouTube. So what very quickly escalated was it did all those things that I thought. Like, I had, within, 5 or 6 months, I had, 30 people under me. A bunch of them were, girls I cheered with, the people that I coached, that I was personal training at the time. Like, it was all working out. And then it kind of boomed my little private personal training. So, I had all these extra clients, and they were all on taking the things that I was taking. And it was, this beautiful little, what I thought it would work out as. And the problem was, it was growing fast, and just like anything else, I get overwhelmed. And throughout that time period as well, I had just found Matt Ogus on YouTube, because of you, right? I found you guys on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, people exist that do what I do, or that do it better than I do. But there's an actual competitor, because like you said at the beginning of this episode, that people get perspective from watching me. When I found Matt and his 2011 contest prep series, I was like, oh my God, that's what I went through, except he even did it healthier than I did. But that's no other than Chris, who's, if you know him, he's very quiet, very reserved. I didn't know what he was going through. He just showed up to work every day, and he was fine, And he was like, just would tell me it's going to be really hard. I'm like, got it. Just like I told my mentor, got it. Hard, no problem. I got it, And so, found Ogus. And so now it was like my gateway drug to all you guys. So I'm watching 3DMJ, Brandon Campbell, Nick Wright, Matt Ogus, Michael Corey on Lean Body Lifestyle. So I'm whipping all this shit with Herbalife protein and telling everybody about it. It was just like that whole, when YouTube fitness was young and informational as opposed to fitness marketing now. And so that was where the conflict had happened. So throughout this 6 months, my heart's in with these bodybuilders. My business is with Gen Pop. And it was growing. And so I found a way to kind of marry it. I had my little team of people, and they would and we'd go to these big trainings, and it was inspirational and stuff, but I'm like, but that's not really how things work, because macros and and I'm trying to integrate. The shakes aren't magic, but if you look at the macronutrient content and you don't know how to make a breakfast that aligns with that and energy balance, then this shake works instead. Like, I was like trying to like flip it a little bit to where it made sense to all sides of me. And
it sounds like you were struggling, like you'd made a deal with the devil and you're trying to figure out how to stay a good girl.
Yeah. It was a really weird, like, I'm fighting with myself. I'm like, I'm doing good for my team. So I created this meal plan that involved the shakes that was macro smart, right? And it was doing well. But I had to train all of my team because I wasn't comfortable with them doing it the way it had always been done. And I was getting overwhelmed. So then I started making my own videos. And I couldn't answer all the emails. So that's how my first YouTube video went up and you can still like find it on my channel. I'm like, so I made this video about how I do this diet for Herbalife things, and it got like few hundred people, and then it was like, so what should the next video be about? And the next, right? And so it was like video number 3 or 4, I actually pretty much, we talked about this before, Lane Norton's shred diet, the ultimate shredding diet, right? 2012 or something.
The contest prep diet he put up,
yeah.
Basically, right?
Yeah, so it was like, the people that had seen me so lean and that I was sort of prescribing, I don't want to say prescribing, but giving out these shakes in this weird way, wanted to know how the whole diet worked, how the whole thing worked with this macro stuff. So I made a video on my iPhone, 2 parts, of just go, and I even said, I'm like, this is from this article linked below from Lane Norton. I'm going to do it on this whiteboard. So I did it.
Referencing your work, well done.
Yes. and I tagged Matt in it. And he shared it. And then I was a YouTube person. Yeah. And then I was like, fuck that stuff. All right, this is not only is it what I love, people are kind of paying attention. And so then that's how it just like the next 2 years that's how 2013 happened. And I was like, said bye to that, which was painful because there's royalties involved. And I was like, oh, whatever. So
2 questions.
Sure.
What made you decide this Herbalife thing isn't for me? And then the second part is, at what point did you decide I'm not going to do the PhD? Because I'm assuming the master's was in route 2, or is that not one of the way the program was?
Yeah. So all of that I talked about was second year of master's. So I know after my first year of master's, I thought I signed up for 6 years. After year 1, I was like, nope, it's just 2. So I already knew I wasn't going to do that.
So very early, you were like, this isn't for me.
Right. Okay. And then throughout that second year, when I was like kind of just teach and finish and do the thesis, was when I started making money with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
so real brief, what was your thesis title?
Oh, dude, I don't even remember it.
Paraphrase it. That's all right. What was your thesis on?
Mechanomyographic and electromyographic response to voluntary versus evoked contractions of the vastus lateralis.
So you were shocking people's quads.
Yeah.
And comparing it to them trying to contract them on their own.
Correct.
I think that's...
You think what?
I said I think that's neat. So.
Yeah, it was real neat. I couldn't tell you a word of it. I'm surprised that title pretty much came out. I think that's what it was. But it was basically that. Recruitment curves while kicking / shocking people. Weirdest part about that was like holding an electrode on my student's femoral nerve, which for those of you who don't know is like in their pants. So that was weird. Right. Yeah. Y'all can Google inguinal crease if y'all want. But that's where it was.
Well, I think that's a very interesting topic because it gets to the question of whether or not fatigue is central or local, right? Because if you're shocking a muscle, you know, that's not a central nervous system signal, you know. And so if you look at some of the research on people trying to ask this question, they try to see what happens in a fatiguing state if they can shock you to failure versus you doing yourself to failure. So I think it's important stuff, even if maybe it wasn't incredibly exciting for you at the time.
No, it was exciting at the time. I don't even remember it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was so. Right. It's just like if you asked, like it was an exam I took. That's what it feels like. Right. Like it was my whole life for 3 months, and now it's gone. I don't even
Right.
again.
Well,
don't even
it
know.
sounded like at a certain point your heart was no longer in it.
No, it never
Right.
started being in it. What I heard when I went into it was we're gonna, this is the biophysics lab. We have Ashley who, oh damn, I don't know if I should be throwing out names, but we have this girl who actually wants to work. I don't think she wanted to be a professor, but at the same time, she was like in charge of our nutritional studies. This other guy, who he was stretching research, and this other guy who's neuromuscular research, like how muscles work. And to me, when I heard how muscles work, I'm like, athletes, applied,
Right.
da da da. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize what basic, like I didn't understand how basic the research was. And by basic, that's not what it really means. It actually means, it actually means more complicated for those listening. It's more abstract.
Yeah, basic research for the audience is when we're trying to get at the core mechanism of the way things work in the body, which sometimes is you're not working with athletes doing realistic things. You are doing things like hooking up electrodes to muscles to figure out how they work. So it's cool, but at the same time, it's not going to necessarily help you train a powerlifter. You know?
Right, exactly. So I didn't. When they say very basic neuromuscular physiology, I'm like, cool, I'm going to learn about muscles. And it's like, well, you're kind of learning about like the tiny microscopic oscillations on one, it just wasn't what I thought. But when they told me it, I'm like, yep, sounds good. So that's all.
Okay.
I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, and then the other question.
I asked you the two-part question. So how did you divorce the devil?
Oh, it wasn't. It was a complicating. Like it was conflicting again. So at first it was conflicting within me. I thought I found a way for them both to work, right? And then so I can YouTube and it talks about. And then it was one of those where the viewers were making it very obvious to me that they wanted to hear what I had to say, but if they heard the word Herbalife, so somehow that made me crazy. And it was conflicting in that it could have been any protein, but the fact that I mentioned a specific one was not a clear message of my beliefs. The same is, the same reason why I can't attach myself. It's kind of like me being like, hey, there's all these proteins, but like chicken. So I did this with chicken. It's like, well, they could have had eggs. They could have had beef. And it's the same thing. Like it was just, I'm preaching this message of just macros, but hey, Herbalife. It didn't fit very well. And it wasn't dishonest, but it was not as clear as I wanted to be.
It sounded like you were having to do mental acrobatics to do it in a way that you felt emotionally comfortable with it and genuine. Yeah. Yeah. So that's totally understandable why you'd step away from it. And
but I think sorry.
It makes sense. I mean, back early 2006, 2007, when I was more an athlete than anything else, I was, like a board rep for a supplement company on the bodybuilding.com forums. And then I looked up one day and I was in academics and I was like, it doesn't really look good for me to be associated with a supplement company if I'm a nutrition researcher.
Right.
It doesn't matter that I know I'm doing it right or I'm trying to. I need to take a step away, which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think it's a fine company. I met some great people. It financially helped me a lot when I needed it too, and I, again, made lifelong friends from it. But, and it gave me the first taste of running my own business. And that's what I think too was like, oh, I can sit at home, do things the way I want to, and so then it was like, since then, anytime I've tried to enter the workforce, even part-time, it's like suffocated, big time.
I think a lot of the rap that, the bad rap that Herbalife and other multi-level marketing companies get is because there's so many layers of vested interest in each person. That many people will do unethical things to try to get more people under them, to try to get more sales. And they're very pushy, and they will misrepresent the kind of money you can make from it. Yeah. Like my cousin, and I won't out him too much here, he got to the point where with Quickstar, which I think is basically Amway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's what, and this is maybe changed. This is early 2000s. He was at the point where he was presenting at like national conferences, and he was some mineral level that was very high, like quartz, or I don't think it was diamond, or it was something like that. And he would tell you that he got a great sense of he learned how to be passionate. He learned how to connect with people. He learned a lot of positive things. But when he really came down to it, he looked at it and he was like, you know what? I was supposed to be in the top like 2% earners, but I was barely making any money at all, even doing everything right. So I think it does. I think a lot of the bad rap comes potentially from how it can be pushed by people, rather than it inherently being a bad product or anything like that. So, yeah.
Anyways, so I'm sure I'll get shit for that, but that's how it is. I mean, I wouldn't have started YouTube without it. So
don't worry, we'll put a link to your Herbalife account on the, the show notes.
I actually deleted it. I had to give it away.
All right, I was just kidding anyway. So okay, cool. So we've talked about your academics. We've talked about your first experience with Figure. We've talked about how you vlogged your last experience with Figure that brought you to California. So I guess where we are in the we kind of started on the front end with what it's like to be a 3DMJ coach. There are some in-between times there that I think we haven't covered really basically, which are probably the most relevant.
Okay.
From that period post-2013, working with Berto, to getting asked to become a 3DMJ coach. What did your life look like from 2013 to early 2015?
Okay. That's such a big question. So much happened. It's so much happened.
Maybe that's too big of a question.
Yeah, can you break it down?
Okay. So what did your after your 2013 season?
Okay.
Did you go through a bit of a crisis there?
Yes.
What was that?
Okay, 2 or 3 big crises. Just as 2013 was the year of all that shit growing, it all crumbled the next year. So you just mentioned I moved to California, right? So when I was in grad school, decided I'm doing this YouTube thing, and then I'm still living in Oklahoma, Herbalifing, when the YouTube channel's kind of taken off. Matt recognizes me, and now we talk on occasion, and so does Nick. So these sort of famous people are talking to me now. One of them was Chris Lovato, and who's also a 3DMJ athlete coached by Berto. I'm sure most of the listeners know who he is. He's one of ours. And I remember him asking me when I was going to compete again, and I was like, well, I don't know. I know I want to do it with a coach. I'd like for it to be next year, but I wouldn't want to do it with someone I don't trust. And he's like, well, who would you trust? And I was like, Berto would be my dream coach. Oh my God, and he's like, well, I'll talk to him for you. I was like, no, you wouldn't. Shut up. And so he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, sure thing. And I think a week or two later, it was after the Mayhem. It was some show. They all went out to dinner, and I remember Chris screenshotted Berto sitting across, looking at his menu or whatever, and he goes, hey, I just talked to the dude, he said to take you. I was like, no, he wouldn't, and I freaked out. And so then I Facebook messaged Bert, and I was like, okay, so Chris Lovato says that you said you'd take me as an athlete. If he's lying, it's totally okay, just let me know. But if he's not, I'm going to move there. And he was like, all right. Yeah. Because in my brain, I was like, there's got this big waiting list. Y'all were just, not that you're not, just such fucking superstars in my head,
I'm surprised he didn't go, oh, we don't have any spots. You're a spot.
Well, luckily, I had, at this point, already, featured y'all in some articles in my blog.
That's true.
And I already tagged y'all in, videos I made talking about y'all stuff. So,
so you're a bit of a known quantity.
Y'all just knew I was alive, I think. So that was all I needed.
That's known enough. So.
Everyone's going to apply and be like, I'm alive, except me.
I'm alive.
So then I video diaried that. So then I moved to California. Quit everything. Actually, no. So Berto says you take me. It's November. So I was like, okay, holidays are coming. I'm going to save money so that I can go move to California. So I moved back home to Corpus Christi, Texas through the holidays. So November, December, January. While I was there, I coached at the gym, gymnastics, the same place, just to, taught some boot camp, sold some Herbalife. I was trying to save up. Moved to California for 2013 season while everything's growing. By the end of that season, as y'all probably would have guessed, ran out of money. So
You
yeah.
mean YouTube wasn't bringing in the bank for you?
You know, a lot of people think that YouTube dollars are like livable dollars, but not for most.
Not unless you've got probably 6 digits,
Yeah.
multiple digits of 6 digits.
Multiples of 6s. But at the time, didn't have that. So I was like making it, but, you know, I hustled my ass off during that prep too. Like,
Gary Vaynerchuk would be proud.
yeah, I think he would be. Because I'm like sitting there, I'm like, okay, so rent's due. So anyways, I'm like in the middle of my prep. I haven't talked about this publicly, but just to give perspective, because I'm not there anymore, which luckily is because of you. I would be like, all right, so I moved to California. I got an extended stay for a week, and it was like I had to be out in like 2 days. And I'm like Craigslisting. I'm like, y'all got a room? Like, so I luckily found a great couple to live with who had an extra room in their house. Shout out to Corlin and Jake. They were great.
Nice.
But I'm sitting there like 3 or 4 months after being there, and I'm like, okay, I have to make rent. Don't have it. Got to keep making videos. I'm like, I'm going to pre-sell this ebook that I haven't even written yet. So I did that, and thankfully I did such a good job taking care of my audience that people actually had faith in me and bought it. Okay, I can make rent, you know. So it was like just shit like that. So yeah, so I made it through prep, but once it was done, you know, I got my suit sponsored. There's $800, you know. So it was like just trying to make it work. Made it work. And once I was done, it was like, okay, I just want to eat. That's cool. I missed flipping. That was because I was 26. There was like 2 years without like tumbling and flipping and stuff. So I went into a local gymnastics center in Sacramento to just go to open gym time, and it felt so good. And I was chit-chatting with the owner, and they needed help. And I was like, I need money. So that's how that worked out. So I started coaching again in Sacramento for all of 2014. I also, while in the middle of prep, Berto had convinced me that powerlifting would be something really good in the off season so I can learn how to eat again. Because I was scared in between my seasons. I stayed really lean. Didn't look much different between my seasons.
Very normal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but very common.
Yeah. So 2014 was gaining weight, working full-time, coaching gymnastics and traveling again. Also kind of managing, helping her with stuff there, with the gym owner who was great, saved my life at the time.
How many shows did you do in 2013?
I did 3.
3 shows. And then how about in 2011?
I did 1.
Okay.
I've literally only done 4 shows. People freak out when they're like, I'm not a pro. And I'm like, oh, yeah, super, no. Actually, though, I've gotten second in all my shows. In 2011, I did an MPC show. I got third in a class of 14, which was like...
That's pretty damn good,
yeah,
especially for an MPC show.
Especially starving and stuff. And then in 2013, I got second place in all 3 of my shows, which I'm thankful for. Because
figure's normally a pretty big division.
They weren't that big, though. I think there was like...
Never mind, you said.
Yeah, no. They're all on... I can't lie, they were all on YouTube. There were 47 people. No. It was like...
In the whole show.
Yeah, no, I know. It was like between... I think in all of them, there was like between 3 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had one that was there was only 3 of us, and then I had like 4 to 6 in the other ones or something like that.
Okay, so kind of standard, natural, smaller show kind of division sizes.
Yeah, and honestly, like fortunately and unfortunately, like luckily I move well and pose well because of my gymnastics, I think, and figure background. So I think that helps. And to be honest, the girls that won, all 3 of them, just their genetics, like I don't care how lean I got, like I look like SpongeBob. Like it wasn't going to work out.
I don't know about SpongeBob, but I think you don't have that traditional, very, very small lower rib cage and a larger pelvis so that you have that crazy shoulder to waist ratio.
Yeah, so I do well in the sport, but again, it would be like the girl that won in all of my shows, it was different girls, but like it was very obvious winner, you know?
Well, that's in, figure, for those who don't know, the mandatory rounds are basically the symmetry rounds of bodybuilding, or quarter turns, and your shoulder to waist ratio is so important.
Yeah.
So
and I'm just not I don't genetically favor figure, to be honest. Like I'm not built for it, but I do okay at it, and I love it. And when I do get big enough, I want to do bodybuilding one day.
Very cool. I love it.
So I forget where I'm at. So 2014. Yeah. So that all happened. So like it was one of those, I was gaining weight, so I didn't really feel like being on camera as much because I was just dealing with it. I had to make money, so I was coaching, and that was it. Yeah, I was just busy getting everything back together, gaining perspective, learning how to be okay with myself.
And you did a powerlifting meet.
Yeah, I did powerlifting meet. I forget about that. I spent the whole year prepping for it. Like, I did it in September. So I spent, and I started learning. I mean, I always did all of the lifts, but not in an effective way. All three of the, so through my 2013 prep, Berto coached me on, the most effective form, tightening me up, getting me on, just making it look like it should. Not look like, but be effective. So at really light weights, like I remember I was sumo deadlifting like an idiot for a good year or two before, and then he was like, you need a conventional and let's do it right. And through prep he'd be like, okay, 135 for like 5 sets of 5 once a week to the end of prep. Like that's how I learned how to and so worked, whatever.
Just with feeling the form.
Yeah, so I spent the whole year doing that, and it was, I think one, it helped me deal with gaining weight. 2, it was a really good way for me to still train and feel like an athlete while working full time. Like it didn't feel as invasive because it wasn't anything different than a bodybuilding prep, but I could just eat a little more. Like I'd still go to the gym for like the same amount of time, same number of sessions.
How many hours a week did you train at your peak as a gymnast?
24.
24 hours a week. So
for a lot of years.
So as a gymnast, you were training full-time athlete almost, equivalent, 24 hours a week.
Yeah.
And as a figure competitor, it's basically 24/7 that you're having to pay attention to your diet. And now it kind of makes sense to me, because you've talked about this before publicly, how powerlifting didn't give you that oomph that you'd expected.
Right.
It wasn't kind of enjoyable. And I guess it makes sense given that you're so much motivated by challenges that showing up and spending 8 hours at a gym and only getting about a total of 2 minutes of time doing anything.
Yeah.
Probably just didn't really feel like you were even being an athlete.
It was easier than a training session in my brain. Like, obviously, a 1RM is not easy, don't get me wrong. And obviously, I'm not the best at powerlifting.
You ain't too shabby either. You're pretty strong.
Yeah.
What's your best squat?
265, but I think I could do it for I think it's more than that. But that's the most
good.
I've ever done. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. I mean, it's all relative, right? So I'm, again, because I'm motivated by challenges, hearing myself say 265 is okay. 3 years ago, I'd be like, you're an idiot, quit being a jackass. But now I'm like, well, now that I've dove into powerlifting and now that I follow a lot of bodybuilders, because we're all following people, I'm like, damn, I'm a pansy compared to those girls, So it's all just the same reason that I follow people to drive me is the same reason I think we as coaches always have to monitor, or I do monitor, who the influences are for my athletes. When I hear them mention some names that I'm like, okay, whoa, wait a second, like comparing themselves to people that they maybe, I don't want to say shouldn't be, but helping them pull their perspective to where maybe might be a better, more effective place for them.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's one of those things where we are victims of it because we're athletes ourselves, but it's something we know we need to help our athletes with.
Yeah.
Like one thing I always like to use is nice objective criteria for people, like being a Class 1 lifter in the USAPL. You are, by the numbers, better than 85% of the other registered USAPL lifters, right? However, as soon as you become a Class 1 lifter, the only person you're motivated by are people who are master and elite, right?
Yeah.
So now you're looking at literally the top 15% of all powerlifters in the U.S.
Right.
And anything less than that is weak,
Right.
Even though 8 out of 10 people are weaker than you. It's kind of one of those things where you lose that perspective and you forget just how inspiring you still can be to the general population or people who are training even for years sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or even myself a year ago,
Exactly right.
But at the same time, I consider it a decent strategy to keep me hungry, I guess. But yeah.
As long as you can still smell the roses, right?
Sometimes.
And appreciate the progress you have made.
Yes. So I did. true. Technically, I won my meet, but there was like nobody there. But I won it. I won my powerlifting meet, and it was like as soon like rep 9 happened, and I was like, that's not the sport for me.
That doesn't surprise me. I think
Yeah.
I didn't get that at first because I've had a very, my major athletic background was running track, which lasts
A minute.
sprinter.
A minute.
Yeah, it lasts a minute if you're slow, right?
Yeah.
And so fortunately I wasn't that slow, but I mean, we're talking a 55-second event, on average for the an average high school decent 400-meter runner, and then bodybuilding, which is very different than powerlifting, but is so much more subjective. And so I fell in love with powerlifting, and I didn't quite get until now I understand your background why it didn't click for you, and I think that makes a lot more sense now. It probably makes more sense to anyone listening.
Yeah, and I think, and I got a lot, I don't want to say got a lot of shit, but again, we noticed the comments that are negative coming back. I remember I immediately felt bad because I went with Berto, Melissa, and Talina. We drove to Portola to do the meet, right? And who are all 3 people who love competing in powerlifting. And I'm in the car, like, having this internal, like, I don't want to be the asshole, but I didn't like that, Not that I didn't like it, but I feel like I could do it every day, and I didn't want to be the jerk that said, because literally 90% of the people in my world professionally really enjoy powerlifting competitions, like as an athlete. Almost all of them, now that I think about it. And so it felt wrong to say. I didn't want them to think I was like shitting on their sport, because that's not it at all. It's just, we talked about in another episode, like at the age of, 7, it's like that beam is 4 feet tall, 4 inches wide, and I need you to flip on it in front of all these people and not die, and do it with pointed toes, and it's over a minute, and and you're going to be judged, and that other 7-year-old's going to beat you, and it was, I think I've just been so addicted to pressure, that I remember people, like, during the training and whatever, it was fine, I had something to aim for, and then I expected, I think, because everyone's like, just wait till you're on the platform, just wait, it's going to be this big rush, and I was like, it was another rep. It was just another
rep. There's not a lot of
rep.
pressure in powerlifting until you get to a pretty high level,
Well, and I think most people aren't used to performing in front of a crowd.
That's true.
And I think that's, and again, I'm generalizing, but most people, if other than bodybuilding, which again, your performance isn't quite being judged, but for most people that compete in powerlifting, that is probably the most performing they've ever done for those 30 seconds 9 times throughout one day every few months. Whereas again, like me, I've just always performed. And so it really just felt like a testing day. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it in a way that's not sounding shitty, because I'm like, I wanted to like it more than I did. I just.
Well, I think anyone who is, and no offense to anyone who is offended by this, but anyone who is emotionally aware is going to realize that the things they like may not be the things that other people like.
I know, but you'd be surprised.
Yeah, well, I am surprised constantly. Like, I'm not ever going to run endurance, and I hate it, but it doesn't mean I think there's something inherently wrong with it or people that do it. I'm just never going to run a marathon. So I think people can appreciate that everyone has a different, a different path to walk.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the path that you are walking now, or looking to walk competitively in the future. Grid,
the Grid League. If y'all want to, AndreaValdez.net/grid is like an explanation of how it all came about in my brain. If anyone wants to go there, Steve can link it up. But so pretty much I had this like another like athletic depression, right? So I got rep 9, and like the adrenaline went down, and I was like, that was all right, and I'm like, well, what now? Like, I planned on this being the thing between my figure seasons. I know I can't diet again next year. Actually, I even tried to. I was like, well, I guess I'll just prep again next year. Because
always. Yeah.
I know, right? But I don't know how to not do anything. Like you said at the beginning, like that athletic identity. Like I need to chase something. And I thought this would be it, and it's not. and I haven't gained enough to look different on a figure stage. So I'm like, what now? And that's when I went on this search for cheerleading gyms in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there's got to be one, and there wasn't. Not for adults, anyways. There's like 4 or 5, but not for adult competitive squads. So, I was, So this is, I guess, like a whole year that I spent kind of hating it. Actually, no, it wasn't a whole year. September, October, November, December. I decided, all right, I guess I'll compete in 2015 in figure. At that same time, so we already had it planned out. It was September, October, November. That was still the plan. In December, we planned a trip, Brandon and myself, to drive down to Texas to see my family for Christmas for the first time in a couple years. And the first stop on that trip was Brandon had booked a photo shoot at San Francisco CrossFit, which is Kelly Starrett's CrossFit gym. And he was just shooting some athletes there. One of the athletes, I saw her swinging on rings, and I was like, that was a gymnast. I could just tell by her movements. And so I just chit-chatting with her, and sure enough, she was like a UCLA championship gymnast. Like, she was top of the top. I'm like, well, she's an awesome CrossFit athlete. Also, she's jacked. Could compete in the stage after like 10 weeks of dieting, I'm sure, and beat me. But anyways, neither here nor there. I was like, cool. I like what she's doing, but I can't CrossFit. Because during this same time, I tried a CrossFit class for like a week. I think I did 2 or 3 of them. I almost killed myself because me being me, I go to the class and I'm like, I'm beating every one of these girls in here at overhead squats, which I've never done, right? So I like never done an overhead squat besides like fucking around, and like I did like 50 one day. Just because, again, I'm not going to lose to these people who have been doing this forever, but
sounds logical.
Right. Killed myself. It was a good workout, but it killed my lifts, which made me mad like the next day. And then like class number 2, it was like some partner thing. And for whatever reason, the odd numbers worked out where like I was with a dude and I had to keep up with the dude in my brain also, which wasn't smart. So I had a bad,
sounds logical.
Right. Sounds stupid. I know this shit's not right, but when I'm standing next to these people, I just like something happens. Anyways, so I realized CrossFit
We'll have to not play checkers anytime soon.
I know. It's different. So, one, it was really, I wasn't sure about it, and I was like, maybe I could fit this in with my weight training, but then I was like, not only can I not, it's also really expensive. So I'd written off CrossFit in my brain. I didn't understand it after taking a couple classes, which I also know is stupid.
There's a big difference between a competitive CrossFitters and your CrossFit class at the local box with the WODs.
Absolutely. I didn't know that. And, me, as much as I've learned in my experience and my open mind, was closed after that. Till I saw this girl, Courtney, doing her rings or whatever, right? So we leave, and I'm like, man, she's pretty jacked. She was a gymnast. That's cool, but I tried CrossFit, so fuck. Whatever. So I'm still on this search. And I Insta-stalk her, like I tend to do when I get interested in people. And she was wearing a jersey with a number on it. It looked like a volleyball jersey. And I'm like, that's not CrossFit. They don't have numbers. Like, what is this? And it was the San Francisco Fire was the grid team that she was on. And so I watched a couple YouTube videos, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And so the sport...
It's pretty cool. I remember when you first showed us the video, I wasn't even aware of it. And the first thing I saw was, hey, they dropped all the stuff in CrossFit that I fucking hate.
Yeah.
Like there's no endurance stuff. There's
Right.
not even any middle distance stuff.
Nope.
It's just it seems like it's all gymnastics, powerlifting, weightlifting, and bodyweight training.
Yeah. It's
So,
as fast as humanly possible. So for the listeners, if you it's hard to explain. The way I say it is like Olympic lifting and gymnastics with PE races for points.
Yeah, and so you've got basically different team members doing different things that they're good at, getting tagged out, and it's who completes each event faster, and you're kind of going across this grid, to get see who finishes first, and then it's a team event. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, for whatever reason, something to me was like, oh my god, I want to do that so bad. So
and they've got like snatch ladders, deadlift ladders, like a certain number of pistol squats you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like a better fit for a physique athlete than CrossFit itself.
Yeah, they're all jacked. So those are all lifting. So it was like, not only does it look like fun because I love lifting and I love gymnastics, but at the same time, it's like, obviously, looking at all these people on the floor, if I succeed at this or pursue it, I'm not going to lose my eventual goals, which are always, I think I'll always do figure, physique, bodybuilding, you know? I think I want to make that clear too. A lot of people think like, oh, you switched over. It's like, to get better as a physique athlete, I have to eat and lift weights. And I can't cut every year and get better. So there has to be some shit in the middle, some amount of time, some very long amount of time, and I can't be unhappy for that amount of time. So there has to be something in the middle.
I think everyone listening who looks at powerlifting as the equivalent of that would understand. It's just something, it's just the version for you that makes sense, and it still fits the progressive overload needs. And yes, it's just different. It's just a different outlet. And I think the most important thing is psychologically staying in the game if you want to progress. And I think it's a commendable thing to do, to find a way to do that.
Thanks. Another thing that I think attracted me to it, which I want to make clear, is that powerlifting, I did, like I said, I was like, oh, I trained for a whole year. Relatively, that's fucking short for any sport. And I could do okay. This I've been doing for about 9-10 months also. I still have a super long way to go until I could even be halfway selected for a tryout for a team, if that ever happens. You know, and I really like that. I like that I suck at it.
I like to work towards.
Yeah, the road ahead is really, and you know, since gymnastics, when I was 14 and stopped, everything else I've been able to do, like I pick up quickly. And this, I don't, you know, and not because, you know, and again, that's what I like about it. It feels familiar. Skill acquisition for the first time. Okay, I've known how to squat since I was a baby, and now it's just get stronger and stronger and stronger. It's like these things, I've never done them before. Olympic lifting in itself, people take years before they step on a platform, you know? And so, and this is another one of those, it's just the hardest thing I could think of doing. And figure will always be there. Bodybuilding will always be there. So
I'm gonna swing back to it, but
okay.
I think that there would be, I think you should at least try doing a fitness competition, which is basically a figure prep plus getting to do floor work. It just seems like such a perfect fit.
If it's around in like when I'm ready to diet again, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, I would think at the very, because I know the NPC, I think, is the only game in town pretty much.
Yeah.
But I know they even have the Fitness Olympia, so I know there's got to be regional, national, and then pro comps for it. Yeah,
and there's a girl, Adela Garcia, who's won the Olympia like
there you go
bazillion times. Actually lives in the Austin area, but I think that is pretty cool. But right now I'm like 100% tunneled on this shit. But that is a conversation that I think we should have as a team whenever that time comes.
Well, I think you'd also probably do better. I think all of the things, like in any points you might lose in the figure category, based on what we talked about previously, you'd probably more than make up in the individual routine, which is much more heavily judged than, let's say, the T-walk. You know? Yeah. So
that could be cool.
Yeah, it's a nice blend.
Yeah. What scares me too, powerlifting, bodybuilding, like we say, it's always going to be there. What scares me is grid has only been around for 3 years. They just announced the season, and it's shorter than the last one. I'm like, damn, will it stay? Like, I want it to stay so bad, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could just ask my coach.
It could be like arena football.
That's what I'm saying. I'm scared, dude. I'm scared. Yeah. But I also want to, if I could, go to that. That one thing I did learn from the 2013 and being with Berto and being like, just adopting the philosophy of, oh shit, anything I've ever gotten a really good coach at has helped me in so many ways, is that I approached it the way that I would ask all of our athletes to approach it, was find the best possible coach ever. So I just want people to know, like, it's not like I'm just throwing the shit out. I have a coach.
You've got a good coach.
Yes, I do have a great coach. But
I relate to that a lot. Like when I did Olympic lifting briefly before my old man hip said, don't do that anymore, I sought out in my opinion, the best Olympic lifting coach in New Zealand. So I think that's a smart thing to do. It shows, due diligence. So go ahead. Talk about your coaching.
Yeah. So, I was just kind of relentless about that too. Like I talked about it with you guys as well because you guys are my mentors in so many ways. But when I saw Courtney Walker, this girl in UCLA, we were in San Francisco. 3 weeks later, I'm supposed to start my contest prep in 2015, and that's when it like hit me that I was about to see my family for the first time in a couple years. And after being there, I was going to be there for like, I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and like 4 days into it was the planned start of my prep. And I hadn't seen them in so long. And it was like this weird back of my mind opened this other sport. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm going to look the same again. I'm going to hurt my family again. I'm going to, like, it all just was like, no, this is what you're going to do, whatever. So you can see that video where I'm crying all over YouTube somewhere about how I decided that wasn't the right thing for me at the time. And then I knew we were going to move to Austin the next year or so. So it was just like this this hunt of coach finding was, okay, Austin Grid League. That was my Google search over and over for like months. I was like, Austin Grid League, Austin. Nothing was here because it's so new. But the one thing that did keep popping up was this girl named Ingrid Cantola, who is in the Grid League. She trains for the DC Brawlers, one of the 8 teams that are in the Pro League, and she lives in Austin. So, and again, like I said, there's 8 teams. The team that's won the championship the last 2 years is the DC Brawlers. So I reach out to her via Instagram direct message, and I'm like, hey, do you know any grid coaches in the Austin area? And she was like, no, but here's this email of this guy. And I look him up, and he's the assistant coach for the DC Brawlers.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's what I was like.
And he does distance coaching.
He does it. Yeah. So he does my programming every day. He doesn't worry about anything besides that. So like as we do our like weekly check-ins and videos and nutrition and whatever, like he literally just he writes my training, but it's a very different relationship. Like it's like he has to think about me every day, I guess, but I don't like talk to him like we do face to face. It's literally like, hey, what's on the sheet? Okay. And if something's bothering me throughout the day, we share a Google Doc, and I'm like, hey, knees were bothering me this day, blah, blah, blah. Doctor said this day. I really liked this. Like, I just kind of leave it in there, and we just work off this massive, like, now it's like 80 pages or something.
So how long you guys been working together now?
December, January, February,
so
March,
7
April,
months?
May, yeah. But I've been injured for 5 of it because I'm an idiot.
Well, hey, go CrossFit, right?
I know, right? No, it was, well, the thing is, and I'm happy we discovered it now, is I've spent my entire life, probably not, but Olympic lifting brought about a very terrible movement pattern that I have, which is the shoulder wants to hang out this way. Literally in everything in my life, I've seen it everywhere now. And I don't, and I say that now, but it bothered me on bench a couple years ago, but never again. But it's just.
Well, for all we know, that could be something related to some injury you got when you were 8.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but all I know is snatches and ring dips showed me the way that the shoulder sucks. So it's getting better with a lot of physiotherapy, which I now believe in chiropractic care when done correctly. Not just adjustments, but retraining my movement patterns, and it's getting better. Like a lot better this past month once we discovered how to train it. But anyways, that's where we are now. So I train for that every day. It's the hardest thing I've done in a long time. I love it. I am totally happy knowing that I won't be anywhere close to good enough for at least another year or two, which is the weird joy of it for me. So, yeah.
Very cool. So, yeah, I think so that mostly brings us to the present. I think the only thing would be the fact that you helped me and so along with Andy put out the Muscle and Strength Pyramid ebooks, which probably I don't know if you'd say would indirectly led towards you becoming a 3DMJ coach, because I became a huge advocate for you after seeing how awesome you were.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Becoming a 3D coach, and when we said that too, when you were like, how did that come about, or like the things that I've struggled with, but I don't know if I've really talked about how it came about, or did we not? No?
I don't think you did, no.
Okay, so I talked about a little bit how I had this YouTube channel, and I would obviously, anytime I'd relay any information to my peeps from you guys, I would always, like I said, cite the source very informally. But Eric Helms said this, Berto said this, Brad said this, Jeff said this, like it's whatever it needs to be, right? But nothing but love for you guys. Then obviously Berto takes me as a client. I move there so I can be in it all, right? And that was important because you moved like a month or two before I moved there because it was November.
Like ships passing in the night.
I know. So I just soaked it all up. I went to all the shows, even, I only competed in 3, but I went to like every local show where I would see Berto, see Jeff. Well, and Bert lived there still. So we would train.
Bert lived in my old house.
That's right. So we trained together still.
You interviewed Bert in what was my house, me renting to him.
Yeah, like 3 months after he moved, yeah. So that was it. It became my family in person. So trained with Matt and Brandon, who is now my significant other, and sometimes Berto, and then I would go to all the shows and see Jeff and Brad. And yeah, so that was just a really, I guess I was adopted into the family very closely as personal friends. And then, like I said, I was writing all these ebooks. 2014, one of the ones that I did was Beyond the Build. Oh my God, I can't think of the end of the subtitle. Everything you need to know before your first figure show. That was it. Okay.
Right.
Which was much easier than my thesis.
The male version.
Yeah, so I did the girl one. It was pretty well received, but more importantly, for everyone who was a coach, saw the value in it. Like, newbies don't know what they don't know, like I said. But exactly. It did a really good job, like, with a lot of 3D athletes bought it. A lot of Tyler Mayer helped me out a lot with it. So a lot of people that already had team, and PS guys helped me out a lot with it, sharing it with their athletes. So
it's so much of the stuff covered that are those questions that the athlete doesn't know to ask you.
Right.
Or they realize at the last minute when they're actually faced with their 2 weeks out and they go, oh shit, how do I put on color? Oh shit, how do I get my hair off my body? Mm-hmm. Oh shit, and all these things that it's unfortunately easy to forget as a coach because you get so involved in the programming and the nutrition and the peak week plan, and then you forget that this is one of the athletes, it's their first show you're working with, and you're like, oh damn it, I should have already talked to them about this, and now they're going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But if everyone has that book, then man, it becomes so much easier.
Yeah, so it was a really big, it was just a real big light bulb for me. And the first thing Berto said when he read it was like, we need this for guys too. And then I think y'all all pretty much like agreed decently well, right? Because obviously, because y'all are my fam, I ran it by you guys. I was like, hey guys, there's this thing. If y'all think it's a good fit, please let your athletes know. And y'all did, and I appreciate that. And that was what I was like, I wish I had this when I was doing it. And I was like, but I'm not a boy. Like, what do I do? And then I was thinking, well, okay, if I have...
You need those testicle creds.
I know, I didn't have any testy creds. So I had to get some. But then really, it's all just information besides posing. I obviously don't know how to pose like a bodybuilder. Luckily, Jeff was getting shredded at the time for his season. And he's also one of the best posers I know. And so I reached out to Jeff.
Such a poser.
I know. I reached out to Jeff to do a... what's funny is what it turned out to wasn't what I asked, just like the pyramids, which we'll talk about. But what I asked was, can you do like a 3 to 5 page insert within this book? And then I'll put your name on it with it, and then we can help. And, what we do is called affiliate commission. So basically we would both profit from this because you helped. And then
you learned the OCD perfectionist nature of what is Jeff Albers.
Exactly. So Jeff comes back with this like 40-page. Well, okay, so yeah, he asked if he could do a few pictures, and so for the listeners, my boyfriend is a professional photographer. So we go to Jeff's house, we take the 13 mandatories.
And you probably noticed there was absolutely no dust anywhere in Jeff's house when you were there.
Yeah, so I should have realized that what he would give to me instead of because in the figure guide there's quarter turns, so it takes like 3 pages. I'm like, Jeff, maybe 5 or 6. It's like a 40-something slide to start, like a presentation with pictures and arrows and like it was, I was like, oh my God. One, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Two, the rest of my book will either need to be, I was like, so now if we judge it all off of this.
So this is longer than my book.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, so if the posing section is this, then the rest of it needs to be 500 pages, like to make it, you know. So it was just, so then, anyways, it became this big thing. It did decently well together. And then, yeah, we got Ogus on board. He helped us out with that too, with sharing his journey and sharing that on his channel and stuff. So it went really well. So that was my first, I guess, official, non-official working relationship with the 3D team. And then around that time too, I don't know if we were still writing it or just afterwards, 3DMJ wanted to do posing clinics in the Sacramento area. And there were no girl coaches, and I really liked posing. I was actually doing, people had approached me.
We're not very good in heels.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, so then Jeff and Brad. So basically, like, I think that was the whole team's first taste of seeing something sell online, like on the back end. I think, right?
Yep.
Y'all hadn't done it yet. So, and I just loved that I could sort of halfway give back in a way that I knew how. And so then when y'all were doing posing clinics, I was like, I'll put it online for you guys. And so then I was kind of like this unofficial project manager, helping do the posing registrations while... Anyways, so Beyond the Build happened for the guys too. It worked out. I'm doing posing clinics. I'm teaching them how to sell the things online, the admissions to that. And then I was like, what's the next project? And I was like, what's the most valuable thing I could contribute to the industry is actually not something I came up with. And that was your muscle and strength nutrition pyramid, particularly saved my life back in the day. It helped give me freedom to not be so isolated and learn how to get back into society after my 2011 starvation season. So it was really impactful for me. And now I had this relationship with you guys where I felt like I could ask, although I was terrified to ask you. But I think the ask pretty much was that. I was like, I don't feel like I'm the expert in this, but the one thing that's the most useful way I could put I would say talents, because Andy's way better at, we'll talk about that in a second, but I knew how to put shit online, and I knew how to do that, but the best content was not mine, it was yours. And so that's how I approached Eric was, can I write this for you? Can I just look at your videos, put them all on paper, and then we could have that as an ebook online?
And for my perspective, it was so much more efficient than it would have ever been if I had just tried to write it from scratch. Like, being able to look at a transcription of what I said, roughly, and then you also trim the fat off the edges and made it a little cleaner so it read better. That provided me such a skeleton to kind of build the whole body off of. And I think if I had just tried to let's write the muscle and strength pyramid again, basically, but update it, I'd still be writing it today. So having had you and Andy each individually transcribing, giving it to me, then giving me feedback and helping me put it into a written versus verbal format was extremely helpful.
This cat is also extremely helpful.
Yes, for those on YouTube, you already know that Milo does not ever let me get on Skype alone. For those who are on iTunes, imagine there's a cat in front of my face.
I think an important thing too here that I want to sort of underscore is that this was 3 years after I had the idea to make my first single YouTube video. And I think a lot of, for some reason, this fitness industry, we've talked about this before, like, I have a lot of Instagram followers, so I'm going to make it, and I think of all the projects I've done and everything that I've said so far in this interview, there were big struggles and sacrifices up until the last, 6 months. To make all this happen, So,
Right.
Fast forward, I think you all know, it was a huge success. It took far longer, probably 5 times longer than I thought it would. It went from just the nutrition pyramid into both books. Oh, God.
With a bunch of extra stuff, too.
With a bunch of extra stuff, tons of rewrites, edit. I think I have, like, personally, just for the nutrition, I think we did each chapter like 7 times or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something crazy. Now there's nutrition calculators and a website and so it was just, yeah, the training pyramid, like everything just, it turned like, I don't know what to say about it. It was like, hey, I'm gonna make this into this little document and I'm gonna sell it on my website. And then it turned into, if we're gonna do this, we're doing it with a third person, with Andy.
Yeah. Well, you also learned that, like Jeff, I don't half step either. So.
Not that I was gonna half step it, but it was.
Yeah.
It was like, the first thing was like, let me transcribe these and I'll give them to you and see what you think. You're like, oh my God, I want to update all of it and make it 10 times better. And it was just like one piece at a time, over and over, and edits. And yeah, I guess we don't need to tell the whole story. But basically, that came out in December, which I thought would have come out 4 or 5 months earlier as a single. But it was super worth it. I'm so... Although I don't talk about it as my work, which I know irritates y'all sometimes, it's one of the things I'm the most proud of doing because I helped birth it into the world and it's helped a shit ton of people, just like it helped me.
Yeah, both you and Andy had tremendous input on it, and it literally would not be done without you guys. So I think, sure, I'm the chief author, but that's almost like saying the quarterback or the head coach deserves all the accolades for the team and success. It's like there's no one to catch that ball if there's no wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
So... So no, I'm tremendously grateful for both you guys' input. So.
Same. I'm happy to do it. So that was, that came out in December, 6 months ago. It's been good. It's been real. All worth it. But there was definitely some bumps in the road. The 4 or 5 years leading up to that. But again, all worth it.
Yeah,
and there will be more.
Definitely. So, I guess that's the final question is if there will be more, what do you see in store? When are we going to see you competing in grid?
I don't know. Yeah. Honestly, when I say competing in grid, I immediately
I need a specific date. I'm just kidding.
January. No, what I do know is as much as I knew it wasn't going to happen in like the first year, I thought maybe 2. As much as I thought that, I underestimated it, even then, with my gymnastics background. I caught on fast, but my body was not ready for as fast as my bodily awareness is. Like, I still have that innate balance, air awareness, shit like that going on, but my shoulders weren't ready. Most I ever OHP'd is like maybe 100, and now I'm going to try to, overhead squat like 150 and try to snatch from me. Like, it makes sense. I just wasn't ready for it all structurally.
Yeah, it's hard to know what you don't know. And let's be honest, you're on the other side of 30 now, aren't you? So,
it's funny. I started with David like a week after I turned 30 and I'm like, fuck, this would have been so much easier 3 weeks ago. Right.
Exactly.
No.
Everything changed.
I know. Yeah. But so it's going to be a longer process. So learning each individual movement for me, which for most people is probably the hard part. For me, it's kind of the easy part. It's not only can you withstand the training, but I need you to do it fast, really heavy, multiple times while you can't breathe. And it's all that stuff that's going to take a bazillion times longer than I ever thought.
While fatigued,
Yeah. So I can't imagine it being within the next couple years. And I won't compete. I won't diet again until I feel like I've seen this through.
Word.
Because I wouldn't want to interrupt whatever progress, which is a lot harder to come by than I thought.
So we might not be seeing you back on stage until say 2018, 2019.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That would be the earliest. Yeah, because I just don't think I could. You gotta
see this through.
Yeah, I got to see it through, and I think there's a possibility that I won't make it. And that also is something I love about this, is anyone can enter a bodybuilding show, whether you're ready or not.
Yeah.
Anyone.
There's risks to this. You must achieve. You can't get on the brawlers without being really damn good. Right?
Not even the brawler, like even an amateur team
Just
or something.
Amateurs, right?
Yeah, I can't. I got to be picked, and that I like about it too. Is there standards I have to meet? Not saying that, but I mean, technically, I could do a powerlifting meet this weekend. I mean.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. there's not, yeah, in powerlifting and bodybuilding, there's not really a standard until you are at a high level.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
used
true.
to that with gymnastics. So again, it's just me continually chasing like, what's the hardest thing I could do? Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think professionally too, that was a blessing in disguise that you were like, all right, you and Andy, if we're going to do this, let's go hard, because I think I was playing it safe. You'd mentioned it before. And you tell me that a lot too, that you're like, when you be more confident, like that I know more than I say, or that I should throw my degrees out more and all that stuff. But I'm always like, no, I'm okay over here. And I think as an athlete, I can be such a bull in a china shop, but like professionally, and I think that still comes from me being like, I'm the new one, I'm the girl, I'm not a pro,
Right.
it all comes from that still. But
And that's something we all understand. So I feel fortunate to be in a position to kind of help you with that, because I mean, when we started, I didn't get my pro card until 2011. So there was 2 years of 3DMJ where I was, well, I've got a bachelor's degree, that kind of thing. And the funny thing was, is getting my pro card changed nothing except my
yeah,
own perspective, which was really all that needed to change, because it allowed me to step into my own shoes a little bit more. And I mean, we all started. I had personal training experience. Brad and Jeff had coached a few bodybuilders, but really, we were all learning from Berto, who had been doing more coaching. So we were all feeling like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. And I think our insecurities would just highlight all of our issues.
yeah,
I remember, Jeff feeling like, oh, I don't know all the science, I can't do this. And I'm like, dude, you've already done it so long. You don't why would you need to know the science? You're
yeah.
Jeff, I'm Eric, and I'm like, I don't have a pro card. And they're like, it's just a fucking piece of paper, but our insecurities latch on to something to make them more tangible.
And see, the thing is though, the difference there that comes out to me, because I'm obviously coming from the defense, because it's
Right.
me, is that with you guys, it's like you were insecure, like Jeff being like, I'm insecure that I don't know science, but it only mattered to the person he was working with. Like me, when I'm working with my athletes, 100% fine, I belong here, I love this, this is my home, but it's the world and the social medias and the internet that knows I wasn't there from the beginning, and that knows I'm not figure lean right now, and knows that I've only competed 4 times, and knows that I'm not the pro, and like all that shit, because y'all are famous now. So it's, when I'm with my athletes, I feel great. I feel, because they're my friends. I don't know, it's just, I've coached forever. Coaching's comfortable for me.
You're a very experienced coach.
Yeah, and if I ever do hit roadblocks, I have the 2 things that I think I need, which is, 1, I'm super comfortable saying I don't know, and I'm super comfortable asking the 4 of y'all if I don't.
And I think that is something that is more valuable than, I think, unfortunately, in the fitness industry especially, there's this belief that you can't show weakness, you can't be wrong. And rather than actually saying, oh, I don't know, and asking, what you do is you give some kind of Band-Aid half bullshit answer, while you then go spend a week looking stuff up so it can look like you never actually didn't know.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's commendable. And
Thanks.
I think it's real, which is most important.
Yeah, like if an athlete's like, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, I think this, but hold on, let me talk to the guys and I'll get back to you. Which honestly doesn't even happen that often, but the couple times I've just been like, hey, what do y'all think about this? And it's obviously fine.
Yeah, it shows you're resourceful.
Google's pretty useful. Or a lot of times, y'all don't even know this, like, because I forget shit, I'll be like, let me go look in the pyramids that I wrote because I fucking forgot.
Oh, I forget shit. I go back to the pyramids all the time. Most of the time, just to get the references. Because I'm like, I know I've talked about this.
Yeah, or I don't think I've even told you this. What I've done too, which I think everyone should do, is just like, there's shit that I forget the answer to, but I wrote a blog post about 3 years ago, and I'll link them to that. Or there's like 2 or 3 excerpts of the pyramid books that I've actually just copied into a Word doc. And if I have a client that wants to know, like, instead of me being like, okay, we're going to do a diet break, these are things to expect. I mean, I'll talk them through it lightly, but I'm like, and here's these 3 pages. Just of the quick summary so that they are prepared and know like when we stop it and why we stop it. So I think that's something that I've learned from Andy Morgan, our other co-author, is he keeps an arsenal. Yeah, keeps an arsenal of informational shit that he can just, and I have old videos too that of mine and of you guys, that so I don't need to know it all every time an athlete comes to me for a weekly check-in. I just need to absorb what they said, either have what I need to say, or go find, because I know it somewhere. It's just knowing where my resources are, like you said, and just I don't need to
100%.
know it all right then.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add to this that you feel would benefit the listeners to know about who Andrea Valdez is or what makes her tick?
No, because it changes all the time. it really does.
Ticking clock of athleticism.
Not even athleticism. I think that might be the one thing to say is that I feel like I'm a different person every 6 months entirely, and I do that intentionally. I just made a video on my YouTube channel.
Hold on, no. People don't change, Andrea.
I know. I know.
Everyone is terrible. The world sucks, and there's no progress. This is crazy. What do you mean you change every 6 months?
Fuck everybody. That's all he said. No, but I just made like a 25-minute like monologue on my YouTube channel, which I hadn't done in a while, but it's on mine, where I basically say how this podcast changed my life because it opened so many other things for us. And I think that's going to be like a mission of mine from now on, is taking on projects that will make everything in my life better. And so what I talk about lightly is like, in starting this podcast, I learned how to create a team of creatives, right? So there's 4 people that make an episode. Me, Brandon, Amanda, and Steve. And y'all can go listen to that if y'all want on my YouTube channel, but it's really long. But it taught me how to do that, how to make a system for that, and then teaching me how to ask better questions to you guys and to have good conversations. But it brings us closer together as coaches, helps us learn more about each other. It helped me catch up on the years that I missed with you guys before I came on.
You know what? It seems like you are, like, you see almost complacency as an enemy. Like, and I'll define what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people work towards quote unquote making it. Like, if I write this book, or if I start this business, if I meet this person, or if I win this show, then I can relax and I will be happy and I've settled. But what people forget is that personal growth stops if that is the way you think it when you get there. And personal growth and happiness and achievement and continued progress comes at the edges of your comfort zone or past them.
Right.
And it seems like you are always, and this is a huge compliment, the biggest compliment I can give you, in my opinion, you are always someone who is looking to continue to grow as a person. And I think that's something that people should really learn from and realize that, am I thinking of life has an end goal, life has a point where I finally get to relax, and maybe I should change that belief. And it seems like that's something that's just kind of in your blood.
Thank you so much, dude. That means a lot. Seriously. But that's, I just realized that. And it's something that I've obviously been doing for decades, but I just didn't realize it until when I was like, what are my thoughts about this thing? And it just feels so good. It's because in creating this podcast, all these extra benefits came from it. And so now we go to London in a week, right, for our SBS Academy, as we're talking right now. Not Academy, our Shredded by Science 3DMJ conference.
Yeah, shout out to LJ and LJ.
I know, the 2 LJs. So I'm really, as stupid as it sounds, I've been saying to Brandon and to Amanda the last week, I'm like, I can't wait for the plane ride back, because that sounds bad, but that's like my next chapter. Like, okay, the podcast and the academy and the conference have been like the last 6 months focus. And I feel like, okay, what's the next, whatever it is that makes 10 things better? This one thing that's going to make all this other shit grow. The pyramids were the 6 months before that. I had no idea it was going to turn into that, but now, all the shit that's come from it is just crazy, and I think if I can continue that trend, I'll be all right. That's it.
You definitely will be more than all right. I can probably speak for most of the audience and at least the rest of the 3DMJ team that we're just excited to see what that looks like as you are, if not more so.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Don't make me cry.
I think we made it to the finish without you crying. So
yes, I know.
Well done.
Thanks.
Don't worry, we'll get you in London.
I know, sometime. Damn. Well, thanks, dude. I feel weird on this side.
Thank you. And no, it's I feel weird on this side, so it's weird. It's good. Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll talk to you next week.
All right. I will talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.